A little over 7 years ago, we called for MSG for the very first time in a recipe, Yunnan dye-flavored cucumber. At that time, there's starting to be voices pushing back on the idea that MSG is bad. Future Dunlop had blurbs in her books. David Chang devoted a whole episode in Ugly Delicious on the topic. But neither, it seems, had the guts to actually call for MSG in their recipes. We started slow and judicious, but over the years, MSG has become part of our standard seasoning protocol. And today, while MSG is still kind of relegated to meme food, we started to see more recipe writers that have the courage to actually call for MSG in their recipes. But in defense of Future Dunlop and David Chang, we are niche and they need to appeal to a general audience. And in the general population today, there are still a lot of people that would turn their nose up at MSG. And they're not all racist. So in this video, we want to engage with this head on because it feels like a lot of people are just talking past each other. Like online, I see a lot of people that would repeat David Chang's point that
no one ever says Doritos made them sick. Look on the package. There's MSG.
I think that's a very good point in combating the very narrow MSG sensitivity claim, but I think for some in the health crowd, it also misses the bigger picture because Doritos isn't necessarily healthy. Processed food is bad for you. Everybody knows that. But the real question is, why? We don't need to have an MD to look at this issue logically. I think there had to be two possible answers here. A, processed food has something bad in it, something unhealthy that's lurking in the ingredient list. Or B, real food has something good in it, something that you will miss if you eat processed food. I believe that our core philosophical difference with the MSG is bad crowd is that they heavily weight possibility A, and we weight possibility B. It comes down to your view of the modern world. Do you believe in conspiracy or do you believe in incentives? It feels like a lot of the online health crowds going around trying to unearth some kind of hidden poison in our food, like this food coloring or that pesticide or this sweetener or that flavor enhancer. There's probably a little bit of that going on too. But we have a different mental model of the modern world. When I look at well-capitalized companies, multinational conglomerates, government institutions, I see a world that's become very good at covering its ass. I have a lot of faith that this bag of Doritos is not gonna kill me, but I also have a lot of faith that Frito-Lay, as a non-human organization which sole purpose of existence is to make money, it's gonna sell me the most profitable and most addictive product that they can produce at the cheapest price. They are run on incentives. There's no financial reason for them to nourish us. So they're gonna get the cheapest possible processed cornmeal and pump it to the fullest with base level seasoning like salt, sugar, citric acid, and yes, MSG. But the good news about believing in incentives is that we don't need to avoid the modern world like some kind of monk. We just need to supplement it with what's missing. And maybe it's the Cantonese in me, but when I look at the modern food world, the most obvious glaring thing that is missing is fresh vegetables. Various kinds of fresh vegetables. Vegetables is perishable, people don't like it that much, so Frito doesn't have much of an incentive here. But you still need to eat vegetables, and I think people get that. But here's the thing, you should make your vegetables delicious. There's no extra health bonus point that you get by struggling when eating your vegetables. If your vegetables is plain and boring while Doritos is not, you are gonna end up going back to the Doritos. So you should season your vegetables, make it delicious with salt, sugar, and yes, MSG. So in the spirit of celebrating 7 years of unashamed application of flavor, we want to circle back to the original Yunnan cucumber dish. Because 7 years later, we do a couple things differently. So now let's hand it off to Chris to show you the updated version of the Dai Wei Pai Huanggua.
So, right. To be completely honest about our original video, it was our first year of this, and we just kind of went to Kunming, had a cucumber we liked, asked the owner how they made it, and endeavored to recreate it. But really, Dai-style liangban dishes are basically their own complete category of food in Yunnan. They're super interesting, kind of this cool halfway between Thai and Chinese cooking ideas. One day, I promise that we'll cover it all proper in a dedicated video. But in the spirit of that halfway point, to start with this dish, you do have a choice. You could lightly pound your cucumber in a big mortar, much like you would with some Thai salads, or you can mix it in a bowl like a Chinese cold dish. Today, we went the latter a bit for international accessibility reasons, but feel free to use the mortar if you feel strongly about the issue. Either way, you'll then want to start off with, predictably, a cucumber. An Asian cucumber preferably, though English might be fine. About 200 grams, half peeled for the sake of good looking, and then just remove those seeds. Then, lightly smash those halves with a knife, and then using the back of said knife, go at it a touch to make some little grooves that can help the sauce cling. Then just chop those up into 1-inch pieces, and set that aside. Now, while something like a Thai yam does have a few similar flavors here, they differ in that a Dai cold salad is usually focused on being spicy and sour, while a Thai yam is kind of like every single flavor dialed up to a delicious 11. Further, in addition to mincing our spicy heaven-facing chili, together with 3 cloves of garlic, a lot of Dai salads also feature some nutty additions. This here was a tablespoon of toasted peanuts together with a teaspoon of toasted sesame seeds, roughly chopped together, and then, with that, now we can assemble our salad. So, to do so, to our smashed cucumber, we'll just add in about 1 inch or 20 grams of julienne carrot, about 1/8 of a sliced onion, and 1/4 of a tomato, seeded and diced. Then just toss in the garlic chili mixture, 1 teaspoon of a toasted or smoked chili powder, all the nutty stuff from before, and a bit of herbs. This here was about 10 grams each of cilantro and culantro, both of them finely minced, but 20 grams of just cilantro would also work just fine. And finally, of course, to season the thing, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon soy sauce, 1/2 teaspoon oyster sauce, and, obviously, a generous 1/2 teaspoon of MSG to balance those chilies. Squeeze in the juice from 1 lime, mix that super well, and with that, your Dai flavor cucumber salad is done. MSG laden and new and approved.
Now, there's something I feel like we also need to address here. Something that I, as a Cantonese person, need to be honest about. Because I think if you look online, you will see people coming from Cantonese families saying that their parents are also very anti-MSG. So is this some kind of culinary secret to real cooking? Or is it internalized racism? Or is it something else? What is going on here? So, most people trace the anti-MSG story back to Dr. Holman Kwok's infamous letter to the New English Journal of Medicine in 1968. But anti-MSG sentiment didn't start in America. It started in the Cantonese world. Now, I feel like I need to back up and give a little context of Cantonese culture first. So I love my culture, I love my language, I love the Pearl River Delta, but like every culture in the world, there are some less flattering dark sides. And for Cantonese, we struggle with a certain kinds of geographical classism. Now, this is kind of different than the classism you'll see in the West or whatever, because in Guangdong, you'll see absolutely loaded Cantonese people going to the same humble and delicious Dai Pai Dong that common people would go, wearing slippers, tank tops, swearing loudly. This is certainly part of a more charming aspect of Cantonese culture. But that doesn't mean that class doesn't exist, and it's often expressed geographically. To very much generalize the Cantonese hierarchy, Cantonese look down on non-Cantonese, although people from Beijing, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu, also Westerners, are cool. I know. And the urban looks down on rural, core Cantonese looks down on the periphery, and above all, Hong Kong looks down on the mainland. In 1950s post-war Hong Kong, more and more immigrants started moving there, which came with them restaurants and food other than Cantonese. In his very influential column about food and cooking at the time, Chen Mengyan, the very first food critic in Hong Kong media, alongside the very valuable conversation on culinary culture, we can also see how Chen Mengyan talked about non-Cantonese restaurants and their food. Here are a couple lines for some taste of it. Northern restaurants will just hand out stock like nothing because they use MSG to cut costs. Restaurants in Hunan will display jars of MSG alongside their ingredients, which will be considered a shame by Cantonese restaurants and their eaters. Or some of those non-Cantonese restaurants have intense flavors because they use MSG and it will make you thirsty. Or something like, though the price of those non-Cantonese restaurants is cheap, but Cantonese don't like to go because they use MSG. Or quoting a comment from an eater on non-Cantonese cuisine, saying those cuisine, if they cook without MSG, it's like they're cooking without a real chef. And stating that comment being harsh, but sensible. I think you get the idea. So then we get to Ho Man Kwok, a Cantonese immigrant to America from Hong Kong. It feels like nobody actually read the letter because in it, Ho Man Kwok specifically stated that first, he got the symptoms from eating northern Chinese food, and second, speculating that from over-seasoning with salt and MSG. I mean, you can draw the line straight from that letter to 1950s Hong Kong. And then from there, it certainly caused a racist backlash, which is also a common pattern. In prosecuting our own internal class grievances, we often try to make the case to people we consider that are equal or above in the global hierarchy, who then listen, but only in part, then in turn causing a racist backlash against not just all Chinese, but Asians in general. It was frankly delusional to think that the American public in 1968 would be able to differentiate Cantonese and non-Cantonese. And whether the world can differentiate today, the jury is still out. So right, as always, recipes in the description box. And thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. And don't forget to subscribe for more MSG-laden Chinese cooking videos.